Time for Chat Room to talk behind the headlines. Here with me, Sun-Times Flash editor Susanna Negevin and White House insider Laura Schwartz. Good morning.
Good morning.
So first, let's talk about the violence here in Chicago. Another violent weekend. 4 people killed, a number of people injured in shootings around the city. Well, that number is trending down, the number of shootings. There are still big concerns in several communities about the violence. Those concerns are especially high in communities where kids will be heading off to new schools very, very soon because of recent closings of their original schools. Anita Padilla is live with a little bit, especially the safe passage part of it, because there are a lot of concerns by parents and everyone else, teachers in the community, about how safe it will be. Do you have any comments about that?
Well, you know, I just seem to wonder that now that the safe passages are announced, are the gangs trying to exercise their muscle and show that no passage is truly safe? And so that worries me a bit, but I'm, you know, in a way, I'm glad it's announced now. I think that the police will get a handle on it, but perhaps it's because it was just announced that it's being tested.
Yeah.
I sincerely hope that's not the case, because that is so incredibly chilling, because it's just a few weeks away, the start of the school year, and kids are going to be walking those routes. So you know, it's just one of those things that breaks your heart if it is indeed what's happening.
There's a lot to still work on. So thanks to Anita for that report. Now let's talk about the race for president. Laura, I know you have a lot to say about this. It's still more than 3 years away, in case you were wondering, but Joe Biden, Democrat, of course, Hillary Clinton, another Democrat, and other Republicans all indicating they may be ready to run. Is it too soon, in your opinion, to start talking about 2016, especially since there are still a lot of problems for us to solve right now? Okay, you can answer the question back there at home. Laura, what do you think?
Maybe some solutions will come out of all this chatter ahead of time.
It could be.
That could solve problems right now. But you know what, Dawn, it's never too early to run. And honestly, it's a great way to flesh out the candidates. A lot of the candidates outside of Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden are the front runners, although it's very early to say front runners except in the Democratic side. But you know, it's a way for them to flesh out their ideas. What's getting the buzz, what's really not. And then they can either know how to change their message before it's too viral and people are paying attention. And it kind of scrubs the playing field a bit, like, you know what, this isn't going to be for me this term. So it is a way for them to kind of get out there and test their message when nobody's really looking yet.
Let me ask you, because Biden announced that he's going to this steak fry fundraiser. Have you heard about this a lot? Is this is the thing to go to?
Steak fry is it. This is where you want, I mean, I want to get invited to splash events by the Chicago Sun-Times. And in politics, you want to get invited to Harkin Steak Fry. It is something that's done. Now, Mrs. Clinton, for example, Secretary Clinton, would never go to that at this point because she is not running, and so that would be way too presumptive. But you've got a sitting vice president that absolutely could run if Mrs. Clinton doesn't. But so it's perfectly normal for him to go.
I kind of feel bad for Joe Biden, because he first ran for president in the 80s. You know, he's long aspired to be president. Then he ran in 2008, and he could not compete with the lightning in a bottle that was Barack Obama. And if you want to see lightning in a bottle round 2, right now it's Hillary Clinton. And so I think it's going to be tough for him. You know, this is kind of his last go at this.
And in his polls, you know, where compared to Hillary, I mean, he's like 40 points, you know, behind her, and then everybody else is way behind. But he would be possibly a viable candidate for the Democratic Party. And I think that he would enjoy the run. He definitely loves campaigning. He enjoys being out at events like this. The guy can flip a pancake like no other. But whether or not he'll be the choice, that'll be up to everybody in a few years from now.
Yes, we'll see. Yes, as we said, 3 years away. And a lot of people are talking about this. This is a story we told you about earlier on Good Day Chicago. A judge in Tennessee ordering a mother to change her baby's name. She named him Messiah. The judge said, you have to change this boy's name to Martin now, because the judge ruled the word Messiah is a title, and it's a title that has only been earned by one person, and that one person is Jesus Christ. So that judge said he has the power to change that child's name. Do you believe that that should happen?
I don't, because I think that it is a parent's right to name their child whatever ridiculous name they feel like naming them. A child can, when they grow up, they can change the name. And also, the ridiculousness of a name is in the eye of the beholder. I'm Greek, and so you might say a name like Alexei Janulius, who was our former Illinois State Treasurer, who's Greek, is ridiculous. But to me, it's perfectly normal. So I think that a judge shouldn't have the right to unilaterally say this name is not for use.
Well, let me ask you a more specific question, because it's not just how the name sounds, it's the fact that it goes with Jesus Christ, that the Messiah is Jesus Christ. So do you have a problem with the fact that this judge is making her change the name simply because he obviously believes in Jesus Christ and believes that only one person should be called Messiah?
What about all the people who name their child Jesus? similarly, or Christian, or there are a
Right,
lot of instances where people use religious names. I don't think this is Madonna.
And I think this is
that.
a classic example of the need for the separation between church and state. I do think that these parents, though, should have sat down with the baby book, like all my cousins and their husbands do, trying to find names. You're like, oh, no, that could be made fun of. Oh, no, that sounds too much like this, or rhymes with a swear word. So, yeah, maybe they should have done that first.
Very good. All right, so let's talk about this. More questions to ask you guys. We'll see how smart we are. A test for 8th graders has surfaced from 1912. It's raising a lot of questions about how far the American education system has fallen, because it asks things like, define the following forms of government: democracy, limited monarch, republic, and then give examples of each. Okay, here's something else. How many parts of speech are there? Define them. And I won't even get to the math, but do you think that these are just, that all of the tests have changed nowadays and that they're just too easy for kids? Because that sounds a bit tough. All of the parts of speech, do you know those? Or did you look at it ahead of time?
I'd probably have to think, and I'd probably miss a few. But I think the point is, too, yes, we can say that today a typical 8th grader wouldn't be able to answer most of these questions, but there are things that a typical 8th grader of the modern age does know and has access to.
That the guys in 1912 wouldn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And that we don't know. A lot of these 8th graders are very well versed. It's hard to say that it's easier nowadays because I haven't seen the curriculum,
but
and I don't know the test.
I know 8th graders who can cut video and make a video on their computers. I mean, they have a whole different skill set of being part of the digital age that I think you never would have been able to do 10 years ago.
I think that's a really great point, Susanna, because there is such a difference between now and then. But also, I looked at some of the geography questions, which were so interesting. And my Uber driver was very helpful this morning in the car on the way here.
He probably know a lot,
the Erie Canal and about the countries when they were the Ottoman Empire overseas, like Turkey in the area. Before now, I think it would do us well maybe to put some of that history back in. But to be honest, I haven't taken a test since high school, college, so I have no idea what they're studying.
Yeah, some people could say that the curriculum is easier. I think the curriculum has just changed based on what is needed and necessary to be successful in the world nowadays. So I think the testing has probably changed. I can't say whether it's easier or more difficult. I think that it is just adapted to what it needs to.
And I think each country does it differently too with education, because we hear about the incredible math and science scores coming out of Asia. We hear about the great reading comprehension in Norway, in different areas of the world, that I think it also bodes to maybe start the conversation that we should and continue to, because I know that we are as a country and definitely as a city in the school system. But look at how the other cultures and countries are teaching their students so that we can catch up in things that we are behind on as a country.
My husband is Canadian, and it's just so funny because he knows so much about the American political system and American geography, and I know nothing about the Canadian political system and Canadian geography. I'm like, what's up there? There's a country up there. Are you sure?
They're connected.
Yeah, I guess so.
So a difference in what he learned versus what we learned.
Well, and it's just in America, we think we're the only country. It's just a different way of looking at things.
Very interesting perspective. All right, so let's catch up some more when the chat room continues. It is Money Monday, and today we're talking about how to get promoted at work and whether it is better to be loved or feared. More on that when Good Day Chicago continues.